Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly, and our topics tonight: the Kansas budget fix may still need fixing. If you thought the minimum wage issue was settled, think again. And Democrats may be rethinking Hillary, plus roast and toast. But we begin by talking about teachers in Kansas and the organization that represents them, the Kansas NEA, the National Education Association. Recent news accounts describe an exodus of teachers from the state, some frustrated by school finance issues, others seeking higher pay, and still some others for a variety of reasons. Here to talk about education in Kansas is Mark DeSetti, Director of Legislative and Political Advocacy for the KSNEA. Mr. DeSetti, welcome to Ruckus. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Describe for us what the function of the NEA is in Kansas.
Well, we represent teachers. The teachers join the NEA. We're essentially their union and their professional association. So we represent them in the Capitol building or before the State Board of Education.
Is membership mandatory in Kansas?
No,
it's a right-to-work state.
That's right. We're a right-to-work state.
Do most of the public school teachers belong to the NEA?
A majority of them do.
And how do you define your role? What was it? Political and legislative advocacy?
Well, my primary role is as a lobbyist, so I spend the bulk of my time working with legislators and expressing our positions on various bills and such. And the political part is I think about politics a lot.
Are you well received at the state legislature?
Oh yeah, the state legislature, they're good, polite people. You know, we disagree a lot, but it's a very respectful place to work.
Well, the NEA primarily supports Democratic candidates. Is that not true?
That's not true in Kansas.
Not? You support Republicans?
We support a lot of Republicans. Our work politically when we work in campaigns within the primary season is almost exclusively Republicans, and in the general election we'll turn to incumbent protection, both of Republicans that have been pro-public education and of Democrats.
You supported Paul Davis in the race for governor last year.
That's correct, yes.
And he was unsuccessful.
Yes, he was.
Have you felt some repercussions, do you think, because of that?
Well, I don't know. There are people who get angry about politics and what you do about politics, but you know, in the end, people are doing it on both sides of the political spectrum, on all ends, and we do what Kansas or Americans for Prosperity does. You know, we're all in the same game.
You know, I find it interesting that you support Republicans, some Republicans in Kansas, because judging from news coverage, one might think, if you didn't know better, that all Republicans hated public education and were out to destroy the public education system.
Well, I think that's entirely incorrect. There are a lot of very good pro-public education Republicans. There are plenty of Republicans who believe in fiscal restraint, in keeping your house in order fiscally, but do believe that government has a role to play for good in people's lives, and those are the Republicans we support.
I read that the NEA said Kansas was engaged in a war on teachers. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think that's true. If you look at many of the things we've had to fight the last few years, in particular, they've been directed, anti-teacher, anti-union legislation has been directed specifically at the KNEA. So I would say that's correct, yes.
And we've talked about the exodus of teachers from the state, or we hear about that a lot.
Right.
Why do you think that's happening?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. First of all, it is this perceived war on education. Teachers see it, war on teachers. There are cuts to education. There are fewer services supporting teachers in their classrooms now. We're losing counselors and social workers, library media specialists that support classroom instruction. It's making the job more difficult. Pay has been stagnant for a number of years, both in due part to the Great Recession, but also to cuts that have followed since then. And and there have been repeated attacks on the retirement system for teachers in Kansas.
Oh, I want to get this before we run out of time. There's been news recently that some districts in Kansas, including 2 in the Kansas City metro area, are going to be allowed to use some people as teachers who have not been trained as teachers. What's the problem with that, if there is one?
Well, the problem with that is that there are two aspects to teaching. One is content knowledge. It's critical to have content knowledge. And that's what people with a bachelor's degree have, or a master's degree. They have their content knowledge. What they don't have is the understanding of how to convey that content knowledge to a diverse student population, special ed kids, children with special needs, children who don't speak English as their primary language, kids that just don't want to be there. You have to be able to motivate kids that don't want to be in.
But not just for those circumstances. You want people to be trained as teachers to teach any class, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And
so-called education courses.
Yes, what we call pedagogy.
Yeah.
Right. How to
you really
convey
think they're that valuable?
knowledge. I think they're extremely valuable.
Well, you're talking to someone who went through all of those some years ago, and I would not share your belief, but I understand your position. Hey, thank you very much for coming by. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That is Mark Nicetti with the Kansas NEA. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Steve Glorioso is a media and political consultant. Patrick Tuohy is with the Show Me Institute, a libertarian think tank. Mary O'Halloran is a media and communications consultant. And Ron Freeman is a former executive director of the Kansas GOP and is now a motivational speaker. 1 month into a higher sales tax rate in Kansas, and the July report shows collections still not meeting expectations. Sales taxes raised July 1st came in $3 million below the forecast. By contrast, individual tax receipts produced $3 million more than anticipated, and corporate tax receipts exceeded expectations by $816,000. Total tax revenues for July were about 1% lower than projections. And while 1 month is certainly not a definitive test, should we begin to wonder whether raising sales taxes is the answer to solving the Kansas revenue problem? Let's start with Patrick.
Well, you're absolutely right. It is premature. 1 month data isn't nearly enough, and in fact, we probably don't even have 100% of that month's data because the law allowed for some people to start collecting early. So I understand the media wants to jump on Kansas, wants to report that Kansas is dead, but we have to wait for the data, the information to show up.
In fact, the July figures I read probably represented the 6.1% rate rather than the new 6.5% rate.
That's right.
So, as you say, you can't really draw a definitive conclusion from that.
People here are going to want to.
Well, but how about the fact that individual and corporate taxes came in higher than anticipated? Would you take that to be a good sign?
What Kansas has to do is ultimately switch from a tax on earnings to a tax on consumption. That is kind of inarguably the way that you grow an economy, and that's what they're slowly doing. And so that's what the big picture is.
So the answer, Steve, is in sales tax increases, not other sorts of taxes?
Well, no. We've tried that. Let me see how many times we tried that trickle-down deal. Reagan
Well, it worked with Reagan. Oh, yeah, of course it did.
Oh,
how can you say it didn't work with Reagan?
How can I say he had to raise the taxes 11 times to make up for the whole?
And not anywhere near as high as they were when he took office.
Right. Well, yeah, they're lower, and the same thing. Right, let me remind you, George Bush did it, and we went into the Great Recession. Hoover did it, we went into the Great Depression. It doesn't work. You can't cut taxes and raise revenue. It has never worked. And let me get back to the sales tax. A lot of this could be people from Johnson County, the largest county in town, crossing the state line. They don't know that it hadn't gone up yet, right? They read the paper. Right. They say, oh my God, the sales tax is so much higher than Missouri. And some of the evidence, anecdotal, is right down on Southwest Boulevard where I live now. That Quick Trip now, you can't even pull into the parking lot. And you look around and it's almost all Johnson County. And I'm going, way to go, come on over.
Mary, there was a time not long ago when the sales tax rate in Kansas was 6.3%.
There was. Then it went down and now it's back up again. The point is that your contention that this issue is not arguable is dead wrong. It must be arguable if the state of Kansas is going to get back on track. The idea, well, the experience now, the Sam Brown Act would not, when everything failed, Everything about this program failed. And so he had to raise taxes, the highest tax increase in the history of the state. And his wish is that all the tax, all the tax to support, or most of it to support state government, comes from people's consumption, which hurts people at the bottom the most.
So a question for you, Mary. If revenues continue to come in lower than anticipated, and we don't know, but if they do, what is the answer then? More cuts or increasing the income tax, or what's the solution?
To reverse some of the decisions that he and his followers have made to lop off the income tax responsibility.
So increase the income tax rate.
Put them back where they were. The experiment has failed.
All right, Patrick, what would happen? What would happen if the income tax rates went back to where they were before Brownback and the legislature was able to lower them?
You'd have the same problem that Kansas was having for a long time, which was a population decline. The economy was stagnant. They had to do something to shake it up. And absolutely, you want to move from a place where people want to come and earn money, and you switch the taxes to consumption taxes, where people have a choice: are they going to spend or are they going to save?
Consumption taxes or sales taxes?
That's right, sales taxes.
People at the bottom do not have a choice. People who make minimum wage or above or working class do not have a choice about whether to pay the
policy
you
advocate for are an increase in income tax and an increase in sales tax.
Back where they were before this thing failed.
And roll back the
I'd like to say Kansas has not failed. We're in transition and progress is being made. You're talking about less than 1% in 1 month, and we're going to sell the farm.
Mary, I'm glad you said minimum wage, because the new Kansas City, Missouri City Council, in office only a few days, finds itself embroiled in a controversy its predecessor tried to solve: minimum wage. The outgoing council approved a gradual increase to $13 an hour by 2020. The solution seemed to satisfy no one but the council members who voted for it. A business group is petitioning to get the ordinance overturned. Those pushing for $15 an hour may try to get the matter to a citywide vote. Clearly, this seems to be a case where compromise is not only unlikely, but impossible. So, Steve, you've been around City Hall a long time. You were chief of staff for Mayor Kay Barnes. What kind of advice would you give to the council dealing with this dilemma?
Move the swearing in 3 more. Well, this is really a predicament. It's the beginning of what is going to be petition wars because of the very low turnout at the city elections. Now the threshold for getting initiative petitions and referendums is so low that it just makes
only
it
about
easy.
1,700 people who are real citizens need to sign a petition. Right?
They can initiate something. The referendum, you now only need 3,400, down from, I think, 5,600.
And that's to repeal something already approved by the council.
Repeal it or put it to a vote. You know, the people that did the original one that started all this, they already had the certification. And they were willing to stand down once the council...
The $15 an hour people.
Yes, they were willing to stand down when the council came up with the plan you referred to. But now that the business owners and restaurants, et cetera, have tried to repeal it, well, they're saying, well, wait a minute, now we want to have our election. We could stumble into a November election, or maybe April, which would really be bad because that's when the earnings tax will be on the ballot, where you get to choose which no increase and a hell of an increase.
Ron, you're no stranger to politics. What kind of advice would you give the council on this minimum wage issue?
Use reason, and you have to follow the private sector somewhat, because if you have a small business that with, we'll say, 12 employees, and you're paying $10 an hour, and your profit margin's maybe 15%, and all of a sudden you've got to increase 33% by going up to $15 an hour, you just killed that business. And we got to be careful with that. And you can't just say we want to pay them here, because sometimes you can't afford it.
Well, Kansas City, Missouri is in a particularly precarious position, I think, Patrick, because some businesses can move to other adjacent cities in Missouri and not have to deal with that, or certainly to Kansas. You
know, the problem with the minimum wage discussion in Kansas City, it was all politics and no policy. I sat through these city council meetings. Everybody knew. The mayor himself said, we don't know what's going to happen, but they wanted, I think, a political solution to maybe assuage some people on the left, and ended up, because it wasn't a serious discussion about policy, as Ron talked about, ended up with a mess. And because nobody is interested in trying to figure out exactly what do we do to help the poor. The minimum wage does not help the poor. It makes jobs more scarce, which hurts the people at the bottom of the economic ladder. And 44% of people who earn the minimum wage live in households that are 3 times the poverty rate.
I don't think I use the word mess. The impetus for all of this is people, Patrick, who really need an increase in their wages. You cannot survive on $7.30 an hour and live a good life.
Only 13% of people who earn the minimum wage are below the poverty level.
32% of the people who earn the minimum wage are over 32 years old and likely to have some kind of family to support. The point
statistics don't support that point. The numbers don't support
the reason why they're upset is there's only a $1 increase for next year, and that's not much.
They're upset because the mayor played politics with this, stood at city council meetings and says, you don't know what's going to happen, I don't know what's going to happen, and so this became a political theater rather than a serious policy discussion.
Guess what is going to happen? It's going to go to the courts, and they're going to decide.
Steve, what would happen to the Kansas City business community, and you're familiar with the needs of business people, you've run a business. What would happen if tomorrow we went to $15 an hour minimum wage?
All in one big step, the great leap forward. It probably would have it would have an impact. That's too big, too quick. But I disagree with Patrick, of course. The minimum wage, I mean, we've had it for years. We haven't increased it in the federal level. Every single time, I think, maybe with no exception, it's put to the voters. They pass it. They understand. And it's not just the people that earn the minimum wage. Once you raise the minimum wage, it tends to bump salaries up, you know, a little bit at a time. I mean, you could conversely say, how about the people that make $238 a minute? Well, why don't we reduce that? I mean, what's the justification for that? I mean, it's the wages in this country are way out of whack from the top to the bottom.
Well, I think the state of Missouri, I believe, prohibits municipalities from raising or setting minimum wage. So this is almost sort of an exercise in futility, right?
There's a law that was, or a bill that was vetoed by the governor, and the legislature may be able to override the governor's veto.
It suggested that municipalities had until, I think, August 28 to raise the minimum wage, but the governor vetoed that. And so, again, we're back in this, nobody knows what's going to happen, so it's all theater. And so what the politicians in Kansas City have done is just inflamed the issue and not solved anything.
It is all justifiable theater. It's about something.
Fine. It's theater nonetheless.
Stirring up emotions with no answers.
Stirring up emotions that people don't have enough.
And you get apathetic voters.
Before we run out of time on this segment, Mary, we have a new city council. What other issues do you expect this new council to be confronting?
Well, I attended the inaugural festivities on Saturday. It was very interesting. However, it was all extremely laid back. I don't know that I've been to one over the years that was so quiet and controlled. And the mayor, as he always does, gave a wonderful speech, but it was nice. He talked about the same issues that he's been talking about for 4 years. Everybody agreed and said thank you and swore themselves in, and we had some nice little snacks. That was about it.
So they were subdued because they have to face.
Good music.
They're subdued because they have to face the minimum wage issue right off the bat.
I think he was being very careful not to get involved. You know, not to start any trouble.
They are going to face the earnings tax, which is the product of the founder of the Show Me Institute, Brett Sinfield.
The earnings tax is going to come up for a vote. We've got all sorts of bad ideas in front of us in Kansas City. We've got streetcar expansion, airport, convention hotel. No wonder the mayor was trying to keep the old. No wonder the mayor was trying to keep the old council voting on this stuff because he doesn't want new people with new ideas to read about this.
All right. Even a newspaper as reliably Democratic as the Kansas City Star is raising questions about the viability of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Political writer Steve Kraske, discussing who's up and who's down in presidential politics, says of Mrs. Clinton, and I quote, "Down, down, down she goes. In Iowa, 23% more people see her in a more unfavorable light than a favorable one. The Republicans beat her in hypothetical matchups in swing states Colorado, Iowa, and Virginia," unquote. While Kraske dismisses the likelihood of Vice President Biden entering the Democratic race, other analysts still entertain the prospect. Well, what about our analysts? Let's start with Ron. Is Hillary still the Democratic Party's best bet to run as president?
I think so.
And talk as an analyst, not an advocate.
No, right. No, honestly, I do. I think she is. And you have a reality. She's worked hard. She's put herself in this position. People have stayed away. It's really late to jump in the game as a new candidate, so to speak. Could you win it? Possibly, maybe. But she's got an organization, I think, that's going to be formidable. But the real issue in this thing is the Republican primary. And when you have, 17 candidates now, you're going to have a bloodbath. And really, almost the reason why a Democrat might jump in is because if Republicans take their ball and go home, the 16 that don't win take their ball and go home, by default, the Democrat's going to win. And that's what they're hoping for.
Patrick, what's weakening Hillary Clinton's poll numbers?
Gosh, I don't know, a federal criminal investigation into her email activities.
Possible.
The FBI is looking into it, and whether or not it's a civil concern or a criminal concern is what remains to be seen. But it's a year out. Frankly, I take the Jack Germond position on this. This is not important. This is premature.
Well, serious political journalists, Mary, are saying it's quite likely that Vice President Joe Biden is at least considering getting into the race. Sure. What would his entry do to the Democratic primary?
Make it more interesting. Joe's fascinating.
Who would you? I know you're a Hillary. Strong. I know you're a Hillary fan. Would you stay with her?
I have no problems with a little more excitement on our side. I think that it makes her stronger. It makes our leading candidate have to organize their campaign and their communication with the voters in a way that's a little more vigorous. You know, right now she's in kind of a difficult position because if she speaks out too strongly, then, you know, she's not being nice Hillary that we all want to get to know better. And if she conducts coffees at Chipotle's or whatever, then she's being too laid back and not strong enough. So I think she's doing about the right thing in terms of her communication, although Bernie Sanders is a real, he's the one who's having an effect on
You're kind of socialist.
Well, you know, when he talks about the difference between incomes and people at the top and the bottom, you bet.
Okay, I got to move on. Former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore, who became the 17th candidate to enter the GOP presidential race last week, a race clearly dominated by one of the few running on either side who has never held public office. The Donald Trump phenomenon continues. He leads the polls. How do you explain that, Mary?
Because he's so smart about television, and he's aggressive, and he popped out in front of all these Republican candidates with a vicious attack on Mexicans, on immigration issues.
Vicious.
And vicious, yeah. He called them rapists and criminals, and they're not like us.
I think you said an illegal immigration problem, but okay.
No, that's not how he put it. And immediately the polls took off. He has captured the Tea Party far right part of the
Ron, can
Republicans
take him seriously as a serious candidate for the nomination?
Well, I think in a field of 17, anything can happen. I think obviously his persona, the fact that he's had so much media exposure, that's what we're talking about right now. A guy who's been on TV, people recognize the name. Okay, that guy. But when you start to sift through policy and what he believes, and then how he may be portrayed in the media, like what she just said,
I quoted him.
If he really is someone who has this hate-based message, he's not going to win.
Patrick, in about 30 seconds, can Republicans look seriously at Donald Trump as a potential nominee of the party?
Well, his polling number says they have to. Remember, Ross Perot got 19–20%, I think, in Missouri when he ran as an independent. But I'll tell you this, as far as watching debates, I would pay money to see a Biden-Sanders debate.
And Mary, I don't think you answered my one question. I'll try it again. If you had to choose between Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee, which one would be your preference?
Oh, I would choose Hillary Clinton, you bet. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
All right. Former Senator Hillary Clinton.
Former First Lady.
Mrs. William Clinton.
Jefferson.
All right, it is time now for Roast and Toast, where the Rockettes cheer or jeer people and events in the news. Let's start this one off with Ron Freeman.
Well, Mike, I'm going to stick with the tried and true, the Republican Party. No, no, I do. I applaud Governor Brownback. I mean, the guy is standing his ground, tough decisions, nothing easy. Everything is scrutinized, but he's staying steady. And when you go through tough times, you got to have steady leadership, and the man's been there. So kudos to Governor Brownback.
Steve Glorioso.
I would like to toast the federal district court that struck down the Texas voter law yesterday. This is also the 50th anniversary today of the Voting Rights Act, which, by the way, was renewed and signed by Congress by Ronald Reagan and later by George W. Bush. But now, for some reason, this Republican Party will not make the changes that are necessary to keep it as viable as it should be. You know, fraud is a flimsy excuse for this because they can't find it. The court said that in the ruling. And you don't steal elections by one or two people voting twice or maybe illegally. What you do is what happened in Florida, where Governor Bush did a botched cleansing of the voter rolls and knocked something like 60,000 people off the rolls right before his brother won Florida by 500 votes, allegedly.
Fortuitous.
Yeah.
Mary.
There we go. Well, a roast of Jeb Bush, it is surprising. It's not surprising to me that there are many running on the Republican side who want to defund women's health care programs sponsored by Planned Parenthood in this country because of the recent attacks from the far right. But Jeb Bush came out and said, we don't want to spend $500 million on women's health issues. We just wouldn't want to do that. And why wouldn't we? That is the most, it was called in the New York Times, moronic policy placed. If you want to stop abortions, the way to do it or lower the number is to increase the number of women who have access to birth control. And by the way, his grandmother and great-grandmother were two of the people that helped get birth control issues before the public in this country.
Quickly, Patrick, if
Sure,
you can.
I'm grateful for the lesson on how to steal elections from Steve. But my my roast this week goes to the Kansas City Star, who for years has wrung hands about tax cuts in Kansas that supposedly cut education funds, and then it itself asked to not pay its property tax, which goes largely to fund education in Kansas City. They should be ashamed.
Finally, here's a very quick toast to President Obama, not for his policy preferences, but for his delivery of good one-liners. Here's a recent one from Obama while he was in Kenya, the land of his paternal ancestors.
I suspect that some of my critics back home are suggesting that I'm back here to look for my birth certificate.
No reaction yet from Donald Trump. And that's Ruckus for this week. We're off for the next couple of weeks, back on Thursday, August 27 at 7 p.m. Now, on behalf of the Ruckettes and the crew, Mike Shannon saying thanks for watching and good night.